it feels like a huge puzzle piece is missing from this game, which makes it very difficult to handicap. We don't know if Joe Burrow is going to play. Who's the backup for the Bengals? Jake Browning?
Yeah.
There is a huge discrepancy between those two quarterbacks, which makes me feel like I don't even want to touch this one.
No way. Now, I will say this. If you believe Joey Burrow's going to play, then grab Bengals -1.5, because this line opened Bengals laying 3.5, and that line has continued to go down. Money coming in on the Rams. I keep saying this, but it's such a quandary in that we don't know how serious that calf injury is, and everything says this is going to be a game-time decision. But the Bengals cannot start 0-3. But here's the thing, Chelsea. Another thing you have to look at when you say, well, he has to play. They can't start 0-3. If this injury is serious enough and they win, and then he's out for the next 3 or 4 games because it gets worse, then what's the point of winning this game if he needs one more week to get better? You sacrifice that week, and then all of a sudden he needs a month and a half to get better, because this is not a new injury. This is an injury that goes back to the same one that held him out for weeks during training camp. The Bengals are in a really tough spot as far as making a decision here, and I kind of think if it comes down to it and it's built into the number, they might just have to go with Jake Browning and just roll the dice and see what happens. And if that's the case, I like the Rams.
Well, even if Joe Burrow plays, you can tell that he's not 100% healthy, and he hasn't been himself this year.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest factor. Like, even if Joe Burrow plays, like, there's no guarantee that he's going to snap his fingers and magically turn back into himself that we saw last season. So I think that's built into the number. Like you said, if they believed in Joe Burrow, this line would be much higher, because it is a must win. It feels like for the Bengals. What are the stats on teams that go 0-3 to start the year on them making the postseason? What is it, like some tiny percentage?
Oh, it's less than 3%. It's minuscule.
Yeah, so it is a must
minuscule.
Win.
Yes.
Let's talk about the total, because I feel like you have a stronger opinion on this.
Yeah.
It is set at 45, which anything over 40, like, I feel more comfortable with. If you're hitting an under, when it gets into the 39s and the 38s, that's when I start to squirm. But 45, it feels like a healthy total here.
Yeah, I really like your idea of maybe doing a 6-point teaser, right? You tease this up to 51, and then maybe you tease the Bucs, you get them at 11. So I like that quite a bit. That's something I would look at. But it just feels like to me that when you talk about that Buccaneers defense, which I was just pontificating about, they're very good. The problem is, can the Bucs be dynamic enough on offense to sort of keep up with other teams that do put points on the board? I think they can here. And then also, what do the Eagles want to do? They want to run the football. They really do. So, again, you're talking about a Bucs defense that's good at stopping the run, but the Eagles are going to run the football. There's no question. That is their bread and butter. It has been so far this season. And so what does that mean? It means we're going to see time taken off the clock. And also, when you talk about the Eagles offense, if you're thinking about an under, this is not an offense because they lost Shane Steichen last year, and because they have Brian Johnson now. I think the Eagles are still learning how to play under a similar offensive system, but frankly, you know, a new coordinator, and new coordinators have different ideas, different ways to go about doing things. So because the Eagles haven't quite been as explosive as we saw last season, because they want to run the ball, because the Bucs are good at stopping the run, to me, that all points towards an under. When you look at a total or a spread, how much does that influence your props at all? Because we have some interesting numbers based on who's going to play and who doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at a total, like if I'm betting touchdowns, I try to bet a total anywhere over 45, 46.5. I'm not going into a Jets-Patriots game going, I can't wait to hit the one touchdown of the game. So I do look at, if I'm looking at player props, I definitely look for where the total's at. It's not everything, but it's a good indicator. And as far as the spread's concerned, you can use that to your advantage. Think of, I don't know if you're familiar with the term negative game script. It's just a fancy way of saying a blowout. So I'm betting Jerry Jeudy over on receiving yards, and it's 49.5. They got smoked yesterday. And for some reason, Russell Wilson, everybody stayed in the second half of that game. That's probably saying more about Sean Payton and their dynamic. But he went well over the 49.5 just playing catch-up, playing from behind, going pass-heavy. Javonte Williams probably wasn't the move there, but Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton were. So if you can indicate what a blowout may be, use it to your advantage.
Yeah, so I think that plays into this game. If you think the Eagles run away with it, maybe that takes you off of receivers, but also here's the other factor. Sometimes receivers can have huge first half. So even if it is a blowout, like what did Tyreek Hill have in the first half? Over 100 yards receiving. So I think the question for the Eagles is, which receiver is it going to be if the Eagles are going to throw the football? Because it feels like every time I play A.J. Brown, it's Devontae Smith that goes off. And then it's like, oh, it's time for Devontae Smith. Then it's A.J. Brown complaining on the sidelines that he doesn't get enough touches when it comes to reception. So do you have a feeling on which receiver it might be tonight?
As far as yards and receptions, I don't feel confident either way because, like you said, they're 1A and 1B at this point. When I did my open this last week on the prop shop, I talked how good Devonta Smith is. He's a number one wide receiver on 53% of the teams in this league. But if I'm looking at maybe a touchdown score, A.J. Brown scored 11 touchdowns last year. He's 0 for 2 through 2 weeks. He throws that little, I don't want to call it a tantrum, but he's, give me the ball. He's a wide receiver. He's plus 140 to score a touchdown tonight. Is tonight the time that he finally does it? And I don't think he's going to take the top off that deep cover 2, but they get inside that 30, inside that 20. He has the ability to bully himself over the middle of the field. He can win in short spaces. So now you're talking a red zone opportunity. I think they make it a point to get him his red zone looks. What he does with them is up to him. But plus 140 for A.J. Brown to score, it's interesting. I think it holds some value there.
Hold on. Let me just... I have a message for you Swifties out there. You're in a cult. You're in a cult, and you don't know it. And the reason why you get so upset when someone says, why do you like Taylor Swift so much? Oh, you must be a hater, because you're in a cult. I am not in a cult. I am a regular human being who likes Taylor Swift, but does not worship Taylor Swift. And the only thing I get, I live with a Swiftie, okay? My girlfriends are all obsessed with Taylor Swift. I'm not. The one thing I get every weekend, and I live for this, I get a few hours of good old-fashioned American football. And I listen to the best player on the planet after crushing the terrible Chicago Bears get a question. And the first question is about Taylor Swift. That's it. That's it. That's it. Now you're in my lane. I need a break, all right? You're breaking my brain. You can't have everything. If you want music, if you want the concerts, if you want the bracelets, if you want the social medias, you can have them. Stay away from the NFL. You guys need to break up tomorrow, and I'm hoping it happens. And then we can go back to football, and you guys can go back to singing Bad Blood to each other while pretending you're in the videos. I've had enough, and it's only been one game.
Get off my lawn, you youngsters. God, you just sounded like an old man yelling at a crowd.
I am.
Who is your Monday MVP?
I guess I'll go with Matt Gay. I'm going with the kicker. I know it's not sexy, but here's the thing, man. The Colts beat the Ravens, and also I understand that Gardner Minshew is better than Anthony Richardson at this point, but still, it's not like he's a top-line starter. They did this in Baltimore. And by the way, these were clutch kicks. 4 field goals over 50 yards, hit 1 with under a minute to play to send this thing to overtime. And it hits another 53-yarder to win this thing. Wins are not going to be easy to come by if you're the Indianapolis Colts. But he was the leading scorer on this team. Again, they did it on the road. I was tempted to go with Devon Achane. But when you put up 70 points, I mean, look, they didn't need him. Not that his performance wasn't incredible, but the Dolphins were going to win no matter what. The Colts needed every bit of Matt Gay to win that game, pull that upset off against the Ravens as 7.5-point dogs. Give me the kicker.
All right, so if a team in the NFL scores 70 points, methinks the MVP should go to somebody on that team. But I'm not going with the player here. I feel like the best story in that Dolphins-Broncos game was Mike McDaniel. We can all agree that he's done an amazing job at coaching up that offense and turning Tua Tagovailoa into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But there's some sentimental factor here, too. Guess where Mike McDaniel grew up? He grew up in Colorado. Guess where he started his his coaching career? He was an intern for the Broncos. Guess who didn't even think about him when the Broncos had a head coaching opening? The Broncos did not even think about him. Guess what he did? He went to Miami, and he went an alternate route. And then this road ends very poorly for the Broncos. He put up 70 on his hometown team. And when he had the choice to tie the NFL scoring record by kicking a meaningless field goal, he chose not to because he said, listen, I believe in karma. I don't want to do this. It didn't seem like the right thing. 10 out of 10 times, you're going to kneel down. So not only did he stick it to a team that didn't hire him, he also took the high road and didn't put him on him too badly. So I'm going to go with Mike McDaniel here. A huge win for the Dolphins. You put up 70 points, and Mike McDaniel did this to his hometown team. So Mike McDaniel, MVP of the weekend.